Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are watching this video. This is an intermediate lesson on question tags, ok? Eu gosto de chamar da aula do né. Gente, eu acho que... Não, vou falar em inglês com vocês, que vocês são intermediário. So, I think probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 times on my question box, people ask, how do I say né no final da frase? How can I say né? And I'm always like, there is no one answer. There's a special way that we say né at the end of the phrase, at the end of the sentence, okay? So, today is called question tags, chama question tags. É isso que eu vou passar para vocês. That's what I'm going to show you, okay? And there's a process, okay, of how we do it. Tem processo. It's not too difficult, não é tão complicado. Okay, I'm going to show you examples of all of the sentences where we can use a question tag. Então, eu vou te dar exemplo de todos os tipos de frases que a gente pode usar esse question tag, ou esse né, no final da frase, no positivo, no negativo. And then right at the end, e lá no final da aula, I will show you a couple of exceptions. Tem algumas exceções que eu vou passar também. E as exceções são muito comuns. We use them a lot. Usamos muito, okay? So, first of all, where and why do we use question tags? Então, por que a gente usa e onde a gente usa question tags? So, we use them at the end of a sentence. Ok? Então, sempre no final... O que é isso, gente? Sempre no final de uma frase, always at the end of a sentence, okay? It is used, or they are used, in spoken language, a gente usa na língua falada, or speech, speech in text, okay? So you can also use them in written English, yeah, when someone is speaking, so you're writing. And then my friend said to me, and then you can put a question tag, because somebody is speaking. Então alguém está falando, por mais que você está escrevendo. Yeah, and they are used for confirming information. I'm going to put info, okay? I'm going to abbreviate. So confirming info, or asking for agreement or disagreement. Nice words there. Disagreement. Discordância. Oh, I'm not sure. Okay, so question tags, we use them at the end of a sentence, always at the end of a sentence. They are used in spoken language, okay? So you probably wouldn't use it in an email, for example. Okay, or in speech in text. Okay, so if you're reading a book and someone is speaking in the book, they can use a question tag because someone's speaking, even though it's written. But you wouldn't use it in a letter, in an email, okay? It's used for confirming info. Isso realmente, se você fala assim, não sei o que lá, tal coisa, né? Você tá esperando alguém falar assim, é. Yeah, you're asking for confirmation. É, né? É. Yeah? Or asking for agreement or disagreement. Na mesma linha de raciocínio, you're asking for agreement, yes, or disagreement, né? No. You can also disagree, yeah? You can say, não é, né? No, it's not. So you can disagree, yeah? Okay, so shall we get onto it? There's going to be lots of examples today, guys, okay? Vai ter bastante exemplos hoje, but that's good. I think examples are actually what you need half the time, because the more examples you see, the more you get used to things, ok? Exemplos são bons, porque quanto mais você vê exemplo, mais você acostuma com como usa esse tipo de frase ou qualquer coisa que a gente está vendo. Ok? Let's get to it. Let's get to it. That's a good one. Let's crack on. Eu não traduzi porque eu tô pensando até agora como que vocês falariam isso. Okay, right, so first of all, if it is a positive statement, we use a negative question tag. I'm just going to write tag because I haven't got space, but a negative question tag. Okay, so we normally use question tags with auxiliary verbs. Okay, so be, do, can, have. Yeah, we can actually use question tags without auxiliary verbs, but I will get to that. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, pause. So for example, let's start with some easy ones. You are a doctor. She is a vet. They were teachers. I've tried to mix the verb tenses, etc., so you see a bit of everything. He was a pilot. Okay, so here we have positive statements using the verb to be. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this part of the verb to be, yeah, and we're going to put it in the negative. Okay, and then we're going to repeat the person or the subject. So we've got you, she, they, he, and we've got are, is, were, wasn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to make those negative, okay? So are becomes aren't, is becomes isn't, were becomes weren't, and was becomes wasn't, yeah? And then we're going to repeat the subject. Okay, so the you, she, they, he, aren't you, isn't he, weren't they, wasn't he. Pronto. Done. Yeah? So that is a question tag. That is our, né? Vocês falariam, você é médica, né? We would say, you are a doctor, aren't you? Na verdade, esse you are, eu escrevi inteiro assim, para mostrar como que troca no final. Mas, a gente falaria, né? She's, you're a doctor, aren't you? She's a vet, isn't she? They were teachers, weren't they? He was a pilot, wasn't he? Okay, makes sense? Now, we're going to look at a sentence with no auxiliary. Okay? So, just a positive statement with no auxiliary verb. For example, you run very fast. You run very fast. He walks quickly. And they swam well. Ok? Então aqui a gente não tem verbo auxiliar. Você corre muito rápido, ele anda rapidamente, eles nadaram bem. So, como que a gente vai escolher o verbo para deixar no negativo? Think about how you would make that sentence negative. You run very fast. Você corre muito rápido. Como que você falaria? Você não corre muito rápido. You don't run very fast. Certo? He walks quickly. He doesn't walk quickly. They swam well. Passado. Swam. Nadaram. So they didn't swim well. So, a gente vai pegar essa parte do negativo, que deixaria a frase negativa, e vai pôr no question tag. Okay? So, you run very fast. Don't you? Repete o sujeito, repeat the subject. You run very fast, don't you? Remember I said you run very fast, you don't run very fast. So we're going to use the don't. That is what makes it negative. You run very fast, don't you? He walks very quickly, doesn't he? They swam very well, or they swam well, they didn't swim well. So they swam well, didn't they? Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay? Yeah? Got it? Okay, so I'm going to rub it off. Pause if you need to write it down, and then we've got a couple more examples, and then I'm going to show you negative statements, all right? So a couple more examples. So we're still on positive sentences. So let's do, you have done the work. Oops. God, my writing today is awful. Sorry. You have done the work. And then I've written, she has finished. And then I've written, they had arrived. Okay. And then he can write well. She could read well. Okay. You have done the work. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the auxiliary verb have and we're going to put it in the negative, haven't. And we're going to repeat the subject. Haven't you? Vai pensando junto comigo, think with me, e tenta fazer tipo antes que eu dou a resposta, yeah? So you can pause it if you need to. So she has finished. Pause, think, answer. She has finished. Hasn't she? So I'm literally copying, yeah? Has, hasn't, have, haven't, had. Therefore, portanto, hadn't. Hadn't they. Okay? He can write well. Verb auxiliary can. Auxiliary verb can. He can write well. Can't he? She could read well. Couldn't she? Okay? So, the only other ones, I'm going to rub it off. There are a couple more, but I'm going to move on. Okay, I'm just going to give them to you and then I'm going to move on. Então, tem mais algumas só, mas eu só vou passar para vocês e daí vamos tocar. So, will, oops, becomes won't. So, you will be there, won't you? Você vai estar lá, não vai, né? Yeah? Would. Oops, almost gave the answer. Would becomes wouldn't. Eu literalmente, gente, só tô colocando ele no negativo. Yeah? Must becomes mustn't. And should becomes shouldn't. Okay? You should be there on time, shouldn't you? Você vai estar lá a tempo, né? Não vai? Você deve estar lá a tempo, não deve, né? Yeah? Oh, okay, you okay. And then you repeat the subject, okay, depending on the phrase. So I think that made sense, and it will make even more sense in a minute, because now we are moving on to negative statements, okay? So, now we are going to take the titles off, and it's going to be negative statements. What do you think is going to go here? This is like physics, isn't it? You know, the little plus and the minus, and plus repels, and minus, and so if here we got minus, here we got plus. So positive tag. Yep. So for example, you aren't a policeman. She isn't the best. They weren't there. She wasn't at work. Oh, he. Let's move it to he because you haven't done he. He wasn't at work. Okay, so you aren't a policeman. Aren't in the negative, so it's going to now be in the positive. Are. And then repeat the subject, okay? So it's the exact opposite of what we've just seen, yeah? So, você não é policial, é? Você não é policial, né? Você não é policial. Eu tava planejando essa aula, gente. E pouco tempo antes eu tinha visto um print, né, daqueles memes no Instagram, de um casal não, uma mulher e um cara que estavam conversando no Tinder, né? E daí ela fala, o que você faz? E ele fala assim, eu sou traficante. Ela fala, poxa, que honestidade, né? Poderia ter falado que era pedreiro ou qualquer coisa. E ele fala, e você, o que você faz? Ela fala, eu sou policial. Aí ficou na minha mente essa conversa. Okay, I should have told that in English actually. So basically, she said to him, what do you do? And he goes, drugs. And she's like, wow, that was honest. You could have just said you were a builder or something. And then he said, yeah, well, you know, what do you do? And she goes, I'm a policewoman. Anyway, so she isn't the best. We're going to get this isn't and we're going to go is she. Ela não é a melhor é. Ela não é a melhor né? É. They weren't there. Were they? He wasn't at work. Was he? Okay, so let's have a look at don't. So you don't like milk. He doesn't study. So we're going to get the don't, the doesn't, and we're going to basically take off the negative. So it's not going to be negative anymore, né? Né? Olha, eu usando né. They hadn't... Oh, no, pulei os meus exemplos. Calma. She didn't have lunch. Oh, não almoçou. She didn't have lunch. So here, don't is going to be do. You don't like milk, do you? He doesn't study, does he? She didn't have lunch, did she? Yeah, so we're just taking the negative away. Negative phrase, positive tag. Positive phrase or sentence, negative tag. Okay, a couple more examples and then I'm going to move on to the exceptions, all right? Okay, so we've had a little look at do, we've had a little look at be, let's have a little look at have and can. So you haven't seen that film. She hasn't told him. And they hadn't finished. Okay, and then I'll just, while I'm here, I'll continue. So, he can't read yet. Oops. Read yet. She couldn't swim well. So, you haven't seen that film. Haven't becomes have, and it's you. She hasn't told him, hasn't becomes has, and it's she, so has, she. They hadn't finished, hadn't becomes had, and it's they, so had they. He can't read yet, can't becomes can, and it's he, can he. She couldn't swim well, could she? Yep. Okay, so I think by now you will have got it, yeah? You must have got it by now. If you haven't, go back, it's fine. But now you understand why when people put on my question box on Instagram, how do I say ne? I'm like, how do I answer that in one story? Okay, maybe I could do a little sequence like I do sometimes. But anyway, and then, so finishing off, before we go on to the exceptions, like before, here obviously if we have won't, it becomes will. So you won't tell her, will you? Você não vai contar para ela, vai, né? You won't tell her, will you? Won't, will. Okay, you, yeah? Wouldn't will become would. You wouldn't do that, would you? Você não faria isso, faria? You wouldn't do that, would you? Você não faria isso, né? Mustn't becomes must, and shouldn't becomes should, ok? Então isso não é difícil, gente. Não é difícil tirar o negativo e repetir o sujeito. Difícil é você entender a ideia disso e acostumar com isso. You have to get used to it. Because we're all very nice now. It's not a difficult lesson, to be honest. It's not. Difficult is getting used to it. I've got a bad back today. It's getting used to it. Getting used to it, using it, okay? When you're writing, we don't use it in writing, but okay, maybe when you're texting, you can use it. It's easy because you have more time to think. When you're speaking, you would say something like that. You could say, you haven't seen that film. Você não viu aquele filme? E daí você, né? Você vai esquecer. Ah, não, haven't, então I have. Então é acostumando a falando, vindo na sua cabeça rápido e fazendo naturalmente. E isso é prática. Yeah. If I were you, I would get all of my examples and copy them again, but change the verb, change the person, change the tense, okay, change the sentence, but just keep doing it. Do it with have, do it with had, do it with can, do it with be, do it with do, and just keep writing sentences until you get really used to it in your mind, okay? So let's move on to the exceptions. Oh my God. Exceptions. Oh, nice. Exceptions. I am. Aren't I? Eu sou, não sou? Eu sou, né? Não me pergunte por quê. Só é. Não sei por que decidiu que essa tem que ser exceção, mas é. I am, aren't I? So you can say, I am nice, aren't I? Eu sou legal, né? Tipo, I hope so. Or you could say, I don't know, I am coming, aren't I? Eu vou com você, né? Eu tô indo, né? Junto. I am coming, aren't I? Yeah? And then we've got let's. Ah, this is a good one, guys. Let's. Shall we? What? What the? Okay? So when you say let's go to the cinema, vamos ao cinema. Shall we? Vamos? Não vamos? Você tá confirmando, está pedindo confirmação, ok? Let's go, shall we? Vamos! Está pedindo confirmação no final da frase. Falamos isso muito, ok? Yeah? You could say, you could say a million things. Let's go to bed, shall we? Let's go out, shall we? Let's get a takeaway, shall we? Let's go to the shopping center, shall we? Você está pedindo confirmação. Vamos? Yeah? Vamos no shopping? Vamos? Às vezes vocês repetiriam esse vamos. Vamos no shopping? Vamos? It's like that, kind of, yeah? So let's and shall we. Let's go to the beach, shall we? Vamos na praia? Vamos? Yeah, kind of like that. Okay, statement without subjects. So, frase sem sujeito. Without subjects. Geralmente no imperativo, então muitas vezes quando você tá mandando alguém fazer alguma coisa, tipo, pega pra mim, fecha a porta, traz aqui, yeah? So for example, open the door. Open the door, don't read the letter. Abre a porta, não leia a carta. Então você tá mandando, né? Okay? At the end of those sentences, and you can see this one is not negative, and this one is negative, yeah? Both of them use will you. Now remember, this is an exception to the rule. It's easier if you just remember it. Don't try and think too much, like, oh, but why? Oh, but it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't really make sense. That's why it's called exception. It's irregular, it's different, it's strange. God knows why. Okay, so if you're telling someone, do this, will you? Faça isso. Dá, pode, consegue. Você tá pedindo confirmação. Vocês não fariam isso com né. Mas vocês poderiam falar, por exemplo, Pega aquela caneta pra mim. Você pega? Kind of. Yeah, you're confirming it again at the end. Você não precisa falar, você pega. Você pega. Pega aquela caneta pra mim. Você pega. It's kind of like that idea, yeah? Open the door, will you? I could just say, open the door, please. Will you? I'm like confirming. Will you? Will you? Can you? Are you going to open the door? Okay? And last of all, to finish off, positive sentences with a negative feeling. Okay? So sometimes we have a positive sentence, but it feels negative. So if I say, eu quase nunca vou lá, a frase sente negativo por causa do nunca. Eu não tô falando que eu não vou lá, mas eu quase nunca vou lá. Parece negativo. For example, she can hardly understand. Ela quase não entende. She can hardly understand. Ela quase não entende. Or nobody remembered. Ninguém lembrou. Ninguém lembrou? É uma frase afirmativa. Eu tô falando que ninguém lembrou. Yeah? Eu não tô falando que não teve alguém. Aí a frase tá no negativo. Tô falando ninguém lembrou. Mas tem sentido, né? It feels negative. Or I could say, George could never speak. George nunca conseguiu falar. Nunca conseguia falar. It's a positive sentence. It's not couldn't here. Não é que ele não conseguia. Tô falando que nunca... Quer dizer, never já deixa entender que a frase tem um sentido negativo. Por mais que gramaticamente não tem not ali. Não tem NT. Yeah? So, nestes casos, a frase positiva... O que eu te ensinei a aula toda é frase positiva, question tag negativa. Mas nessas exceções, in these cases, just quite rare, é meio raro. So in a sentence that seems negative, feels negative, you will use a positive question tag. In the same way, so she can hardly understand, can she? You're not going to say can't she, like you would with a normal positive sentence, okay? Nobody remembered. Did they? It's in the past. Yeah? Did they? So I'm talking about eles. Ninguém. Yeah? George could never speak. Could he? Okay? This did, obviously, is because it's in the past. And they referindo ao nobody. Could he? He refere ao George, o sujeito. E não fica no negativo, porque a frase é positivo, mas parece negativo. Okay, and that's it. That's it. Finished with the exceptions. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that lesson. You now know how to say ne, so I don't want to see any of you guys putting on my question box on Instagram. How do I say ne, teacher? Because it's just impossible to answer that in one story. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Homework below, I believe. Have a great week, and I will see you all same time, same place next week. Bye bye.